For this next section of practice, we're going to be focused on the blue square, which is going to be using tissue paper to cut up triangles and piece back together and follow along with the value change. So I'm going to play the time lapse, but I'm starting out with gathering all of the blue papers. So there's the dark blue and then the two different shades of light blue, and then the black and white tissue paper as well in order to add the highlights and shadows. And then from there, I am cutting them up into small triangles. The smaller your triangles, the more detail you're able to add, and the easier it will be to fill in those small sections. You could also try cutting them up into your colors and kind of coordinating and separating them out, so you don't have to dig through the pile and sort them. But getting started, I'm just looking at the different value change areas, starting with that darkest shadow for the eyebrow and going over it with the dark blue and black. So anywhere that is the darkest, I would use your dark blue and black, kind of repeating and interchanging where those triangles are placed. And then you can always start with the black and maybe do just a few of the blue ones on top. But then in the medium tone areas, this is where I'm using all of the light blue values and adding a few of the darker blue sections. And then in the highlights, you can use maybe the light blue and the white. And then in the darkest shadows, you can use all black. I know that some of these details are tricky to incorporate the details with, so what can help is adding a little bit of glue onto your paintbrush and just painting that glue into that small area that you would like to add the tissue paper. Another thing to think about is layering the tissue paper. So as I'm working, you can kind of see some of the darker colors underneath some of the triangles. So I would start with some of those darker blues and then add the lighter blues and whites on top to see the layers and texture underneath. When you do get to the eye, I would try your best to be as detailed as possible, maybe cut up some extra small triangles for this section, with the black especially, to kind of outline some of the areas, and then just trying to fill in the main values. So that darker blue around the outside of the eye, the white for the white part of the eye, and then the next thing that once you have all that filled in that's going to really help to refine the area is to bring the detail back with either charcoal or Sharpie. So I started with charcoal and I just shaded on top of all of those darker areas, and now I'm looking at some of the details with the Sharpie and going over top of the eyelashes, outlining the eye a little bit more. And then the last thing I use here is the white charcoal. So the white charcoal helps to go over top of the highlights just to emphasize those and really refine details. So I'm going over a lot of this with the white charcoal. And you can see that when it's zoomed in, you do kind of lose some of the detail, but when you look at it from afar, everything comes together, all the values fit really nicely. So just try your best to block in the value change and then worry about the details when you do go back with charcoal or Sharpie.